feeling cold against your skin. Running through the chaos, letting all the sin. Temptation in a bottle, ready for the night. Craving for the thrill, it's time to ignite. Dark desires burning bright. Echoes in the dead of night. No retreat, no looking back on this heart attack.
Hey, ladies and gentlemen, now on summertime, apparently. Woke up this morning and I was like, it's got to be like 11 a.m. And I looked at my phone, and my phone was telling me one time, and I looked at my clock, and my clock was telling me a different time. And it took me like 20 minutes to realize that we had changed onto daylight savings time. I forgot it's always like the first weekend in October. And so it threw me out of whack all day because all the show times for Cold Justice were different. And apparently my half asleep brain couldn't figure it out. And it took me a while. So I missed the first airing of Cold Justice on the Eastern time zone. So I had to wait till the Western time zone aired their one. And yeah, so over the next month, now that Australia and the Southern Hemisphere and has gone on to daylight savings, America in November will come off daylight savings, and our times will actually get better for hanging out with each other. So I will still be able to come on at the same time every day, but it should be earlier for you guys. So it should be earlier, which would be good. We were told you had no live at Trisha's? What? I don't know what that means. Is that what Trisha said? I don't know why she said that. Maybe she just looked in the thing and didn't see it. So she was like, "Oh, he's not coming on." But no, we always come on a Saturday night to talk Cold Justice. This was a very sad episode. Hold on, let me get set up and then we'll get going. Oh, okay. All right. Hey guys, good to see you. It's your most unique looking person. Obviously me. I am your most unique looking person in the world. So it's me, Ping. Hey, good to see you all. Very sad episode of Cold Justice. Although all of them have tragic stories, this one was really sad. It's about this woman, Indiana mom, Brandy Wilson, and she's been missing since June of 2020. No, 2002. And she was married to a guy called Kenny Wilson. And what it says here, Kenny Wilson told police his wife Brandy disappeared in June of 2002, taking $400 in cash and leaving behind her wedding rings. But co-workers believe she met a more sinister end. And so we heard a lot about Kenny Wilson on this show. This was one of those episodes where it feels like everyone knows what happened. It's one of those crimes where it feels like everyone knows what happened and they can't prove it. It's one of those classic true crime things that we've talked about a million times. The cops know exactly who did it, but they don't have the evidence. Well, in this episode, they tried to. This is Brandy on the screen that you see right here. They tried to get the evidence to try and charge Kenny over the death of Brandy, but it ended in a very sad ending for it. And they say here, Brandy, a mum of two who was working an overnight shift at the Donaldson factory in 2002 when she suddenly disappeared. At the time, Brandy was described as others by sweet, caring, and a devoted mother, and was married to Kenny Wilson, a man with a violent criminal past. This guy had a really violent, like we talk about people that have like a history with crime. Listen to this. Years before he met Brandy, Kenny and his friend were charged over the 1987 robbery homicide of an elderly victim who was beaten to death and then disposed of in a freezer. Kenny pled guilty to the robbery in exchange for the homicide charges to be dropped and spent 10 years in prison. Real good guy, real good guy. Putting elderly victims into a freezer. Seems like a great guy, right? Someone you'd like to be around. Yeah, I don't think so. I think he would be worried that you would end up in a freezer as well. They say after he was released, after that 10 years, he met Brandy, and the two embarked on a whirlwind romance. After they found out Brandy was pregnant, they got married. Then they say by 2002, the love was beginning to fade, and those close to Brandy reported that she may have been the victim of both verbal and physical abuse. Then, on June 4, 2002, Brandy failed to show up to work. Four of her co workers went to the sheriff's office to report her missing. And according to the sheriff's office, they said this is a case that definitely haunted her friends. It's haunted her family. It's haunted the officers that were initially involved in the case. So when they spoke to Kenny, so of course that's the first person they're going to speak to, right? Wife goes missing. We're going to go speak to the husband. He admitted the couple were having marital difficulties and claimed that he sent the children to stay at his parents' house just a few days before Brandy disappeared so that they could work on the marriage. I don't know how you work on a marriage. This is how he describes it. The day she vanished, Kenny said they had breakfast together, made love, and then went to bed. It seems like the reverse order of how you maybe do those things, but sure. And when he woke up around 2 p.m., he told detectives that Brandy was gone. According to his account, she had taken $400 from their emergency fund and left her wedding rings on the counter. They said in the episode that he let detectives into his home, look at his car. There was no struggle in the home that they could find. There was nothing broken. There was nothing tossed around. There was no blood anywhere. They say, despite extensive searching for Brandy around the surrounding area, Brandy has never returned and has never been found. Now, according to her brother David, she would never ever leave her children. She loved her children. They were the greatest thing in her life, and she would never leave them. That's it. That's the be and end all of it. Um, yeah. Just trying to see if you guys think. Hey, Lindy, how are you? Lindy said, "I think that was just because there's no thumbnail up at the time." Yeah, that could be it. No, he had a job too at the factory. Now, this is what's interesting. Just before she went missing, people at that factory say that he was having an affair with another woman who worked at the factory, and that during their lunch break, he and her would toddle off to his car or her car and, you know, do what you do with the opposite sex of people in that situation. So they would often have a lunchtime quickie, is the way they described it. And it seemed like to everyone, apparently everyone thought he was single. They didn't know he was married. They all thought he was a single guy. That's why he was fooling around with this girl at work. They had no idea that he even had a wife at home until a partner of someone realized that they knew Brandy and they knew she was married to him. And apparently, she found out about him fooling around with this other woman. This was just before she went missing, according to witnesses. So that sort of goes hand in hand with they're working on their marriage, just before they went missing. It sounds like she found out about him screwing around. She would have been very, very angry over it. And then something has happened. The authorities say they don't know. They're not 100% sure what happened, but they just know that something happened. And they were saying in the episode, it's one of those cases, if it ever made it to court, they would not be able to give a sort of play-by-play of what happened to Brandy because they don't know. They actually don't really know fully what transpired before she disappeared. So it would be difficult to show that to a jury. Now, Brandy's co-workers believe that she was drawn to Kenny because she was desperate to find love. They described him as controlling and told detectives that she showed up to work with bruises and a black eye. According to a co-worker of hers called Sheila, added that Brandy confided that Kenny allegedly strangled her unconscious about a month before she disappeared, adding, "She said that he was just so mad and his face was just like he wasn't there when he was strangling her." However, Kenny denied ever being physically abusive to his wife while speaking with the original detectives back 20 years ago. And here. So during the episode, the Cold Justice team spoke with some of Kenny's co-workers. One of them recalled that on the night Brandy went missing, Kenny had joked that uh, none of his co-workers would want to see what he had in his trunk that night. Others reported that he'd been having an affair with a co-worker. According to Brandy's co-worker, Kim, she told Brandy about the alleged affair just before the Mama 2 vanished. She says she confronted him then, and after that, things were really bad between him and her, adding Brandy was too afraid to go back to the home and sleep in the marital home. And this particular case, they interviewed a lot of the family. There's not very many family left. A lot of them, unfortunately, have died over the years. Being that it is 20 years since she went missing, a lot of them have unfortunately passed away between that point and now, and there's very few left. And they seem very hurt about what they see as a lack of effort and a lack of answers as to what happened to Brandy. They just were very upset through the episode. Um, some of them are very angry, very outright angry when they're speaking to the authorities. Some of them are very sort of quiet, internal sort of upset at what they're being told, and it's extremely sad. Now, during the episode, they they think they've got a very good circumstantial case to charge Kenny with his wife's murder. Okay, they think that with all the witness statements, the alleged affair, what he said to the people about what was in his trunk on the night of the disappearance, the circumstances surrounding her, Brandy going missing, all these things paint a very bleak picture of what has happened to Brandy. Now, they took it to the DA. After going through all this, they took it to the DA, and unfortunately, it's one of those counties in America where if you don't have a body, they don't want to charge anyone. And unfortunately, in this particular case, since they have never been able to find Brandy or even tell anyone what had happened to her, where she might be, in what area, uh, the DA says that they're not willing to put any charges against Kenny because they don't have a body. Uh, Kelly said at the end of the episode that she thinks that the DA is wrong and that there is a very good case here that Kenny should have to answer to it. And yeah, I'll tell you what they said here. Kelly said the case turned out to be good and strong. The sheriff's department never gave up, and I know they never will. She said she disagreed with the decision not to move forward with charges, and they said it seems the case remains unchanged. The witness accounts painted a compelling story for investigators, but the county's prosecutors still felt there wasn't enough evidence to proceed with any charges, especially because there was no body. Pretty sad. Kelly said during the episode she thought this may be the last time anyone may actually try and work on the case and try and do anything for Brandy, being that it had already been 20 years, being that a lot of the people had already passed away that were involved in it, and she thought this would be like a last ditch effort to get any kind of court proceedings on Kenny. I will tell you this though, during the episode, they did go and speak to Kenny. They went and found him. They spoke to him, and I've never seen anyone act this way when speaking about a missing loved one. They went up to him at his home, got him out on the front porch, and they were like, "So we want to talk to you about Brandy." And he was like, "Oh, I don't care. I don't want anything to do with it." They're like, Do you want us to look for her?" And he's like, "Well, I don't care. That's on you guys. You want to look for her? You look for her. You don't want to look for her? Don't worry about it." He's like, "I don't care what you do." He was so rude about the fact uh, they were reinvestigating the case, and when they asked him if he could talk to them about his statements, anything he remembers about the night she went missing, he was just like, "No, I don't care. I don't care if you want to talk to me." He's like, "That was 20 years ago. I'm done with it. I don't want anything to do with helping you guys." And it was such a strange reaction. If you were innocent, if you were someone who really, really loved her, even with all your problems, wouldn't you want them to find her, to clear your name? Wouldn't you want them to try and figure this out so the burden is not on you anymore? And he didn't do that. He was the exact opposite. He was basically like, I don't give a shit about her. I don't want to talk about it." And it was one of the most bizarre reactions I've ever seen coming from anyone. Miss Woozy said, "Tell me you're a POS without telling me you're a POS, Kenny." Yeah, it was strange, very strange. He said here, so when they went to talk to him, Kenny claimed that he didn't know what happened to his missing wife and didn't care. So he basically doesn't care what happened to her, doesn't care if she's alive, doesn't care if she's dead, doesn't want anything to do with searching for her. Sean says, depends on the toxicity in their relationship, maybe. I think after 20 years, you would think you would still care for the woman, that she's the mother of your children, and she disappeared in strange circumstances, right? You would think that you would have some longing to have answers if you weren't involved, even if you did have a difficult relationship. Marlene said, "Not if I had anything to do with the crime. No talking may make a mistake." That guy couldn't string two words together. He barely strung "I don't care" together. Almost seemed drunk or something. Um, he may be busy with his next victim in the freezer. Maybe. Nah, he did it. Hold on a minute. Hold on. Sorry about that. Allergies right now are insane because of all the spring floral wind and particles in the air. Drunk with guilt. He's clearly a suspect. I think they demonstrated throughout the episode that there is no other suspect. There is no other person who would have wanted to hurt her. And that she wouldn't just take $400 and leave. But what is very sad, like Kelly said, there's just so little information. And unless somebody comes forward who actually was involved in hurting Brandy, that this may be the only way this particular case ends up, that unless something changes, it may not ever really go to court. And she said several times during the episode that there just may never be a resolution, which is very sad. Here's a older article about her that someone wrote up on Medium. The strange disappearance of Brandy Wilson, mother of two, vanished while her husband was sleeping. There's a nice photo of her too, by the way, of Brandy. So she was from Colfax, Indiana, and they say here when her husband got home from work early on the morning of Tuesday, June 4, 2002, Kenneth Wilson worked third shift the night before, so he went to bed shortly after he got home. When he woke up around 2 p.m., Brandy was gone, but both of the couple's vehicles were still parked outside. Brandy's purse had been left, but $420 in cash was missing from the home. About this bit about the two vehicles, they also said during the episode that the night Brandy went missing, Kenneth took her vehicle and not his own when he had to go out. And they thought that was very strange. Like, why wouldn't he just take his own vehicle? But then they heard that information about there's something in his trunk, and they thought, well, maybe he didn't want to be driving around with, whatever was in the trunk and didn't want to be caught with it. So, um, very, very suspicious. So Brandy was employed at the Donaldson Company in Frankfort, Indiana, was scheduled to work at 4 p.m. that day but failed to show up. Her coworkers immediately feared that something had happened to her. She and Kenneth had been having some marital problems. She told some of her coworkers that if anything happened to her, Kenneth would likely be responsible. And she told a few people that, including her brother. She told her brother that if anything happened to her, it was most likely Kenneth. And they're saying here, Kenneth waited until Wednesday morning to report his wife missing. He told police he contacted her friends first to see if she was with any of them, but had been unable to locate her. Brandy's mother, Pam, didn't believe Brandy was missing voluntarily. She had an 8-year-old son from a previous relationship, and she and Kenneth had welcomed a child together in late 2001. Pam said there was no way Brandy would have willingly abandoned her children. I agree. Brandy didn't take any of her belongings with her when she left. Her purse, wedding ring, and all of her clothing were found at the home, including both of the vehicles. Um, they say here none of the neighbors reported seeing her getting into a car with anyone else. She wasn't seen walking through the neighborhood either, and they're saying her disappearance was a complete mystery. So there you go. Pretty strange. And when you have this type of, they showed the area. It was like a farming community, and sometimes the distance between one home and the next home is vast farmland. So they were saying it's a good place to get rid of a body, do things that you don't want people seeing, and it would be a perfect location to hide a body. Yeah, they were just saying like you could do many things out here and never be found. And I agree that that would possibly be the case. All right, here we go. Let me see if I can find anything else. I want to find some older information about it. Yeah. There's a lot of people over the years who have tried to um, help put more information out there, but not actually. Yeah. So here's her 411gina.org account here. Brandy Nicole Wilson, missing from June 4, 2002 in Colfax, Indiana. There's some very old photos of her. including the one that's on her missing person poster. And there's a few of her different photos. They say endangered missing, date of birth, she was born 1977, July 12th. And they said any identifying characteristics. Apparently, she occasionally wore glasses, had a circular scar on the back of her neck, a tattoo of a flower on her left breast, possibly a rose, and pierced ears. So she had earrings. They said she was last seen at her home on the morning of June 4th, 2002, never seen again. And we've told you what her belongings, like they didn't, none of them had been missing. So there's that missing person poster. Yeah, there you go. Missing and never located. And they were saying because of the vastness of the area around Colfax, they couldn't even begin to check the area because it's just miles and miles and miles of farmland. And it's like, well, where would you start to look for her? If unless you have something that narrows down the area, you're looking through, 200 square miles of land. And they were saying that unless someone can give them a pointer to a direction that they just don't have anywhere to look for her really. Um, yeah, I want to go more into this one. Give me 1 second, people. Yep. Uh, what is this? Give me 1 second, guys. I'm just trying to set this up so we can look at this. All right, there we go. All right. Let me see if there's any more information in this story for us. Um, yeah, I can show this to you. There's another old photo of Brandy right there. It's a black and white Brandy and Kenny with her son. It looks like a newspaper clipping, which it says it's from newspapers.com. But there you go, probably at the time of her disappearance. Uh, there you go. Really, there's Kenny. You can see him. Violent, violent man, according to witnesses. Hey, Danny. Hi, all. Need a break from Eddie Gein? So twisted. You down the Gein rabbit hole? That is a a pretty brutal case. They say while those who knew Brandy insisted that she hadn't voluntarily vanished, detectives weren't so sure. A representative for the Clinton County Sheriff's Office told reporters they were operating under the assumption that she left home willingly and would return when she was ready. They noted that they hadn't found anything to indicate Brandy met with foul play. It seemed more likely that she wanted to get away for a while. Then they say, we don't really have anything right now that points to anything else. That was back in 2002. They said, despite the lack of evidence, they noted that 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 detectives interviewed everyone and they had told them the same thing. Brandy would never have abandoned her children. Everything we're getting about her is that this is completely out of character. Everyone says there's no way she would have just left her kids. And they said the detectives admitted that there were few clues in the case, making it hard to determine exactly what happened. Usually, with a missing persons case or a missing person that's wandered off, there's something to give you a clue as to whether they just up and wandered off or if something else happened. They say a week after Brandy was reported missing, detectives had only been able to conduct one brief interview with her husband, Kenneth. They said that they tried to contact him to schedule a more in depth interview, but had been unable to reach him. Oh, of course, of course. Very similar to how they approached him recently for the episode of Cold Justice. He wanted nothing to do with investigators at all. They asked him about a statement he had made in 2002 after Brandy went missing. And they're like, we just want to go through it with you. And we want to just verify that, you haven't remembered anything else in 20 years, don't want to add anything to it. Maybe you, remember more things, found something afterwards that, you never got to tell authorities. And do you know what he said to authorities? Oh, I wrote that. And if you say I wrote it, then I did. And I have nothing to add. But if you tell me I wrote that, then yes, I definitely did. And that's all he would say about it. Just, if you tell me I did that, then I did. I don't have anything to add to it. And that's it. So very evasive, very evasive with authorities. There's that nice photo. Very few photos of Brandy, unfortunately. Very few. Um, yeah, there are only a handful. That's one thing I would say. One of the things that we've seen a lot in true crime, and especially some of these older cases, is very few photos. Now, back then in 2002, people didn't have cameras strapped to their hand 24 hours a day. Now we all have cell phones that have like 4K cameras and can record and megapixels, and we can take photos. Back in 2002, cameras were a specialized item. Like, not everyone carried one. You normally only brought them out for family gatherings or if you were interested in photography. So it's not like that's one thing. Even today, there's some people who go missing and there's not many photos of them. Even with today's technology being so prevalent in society, that still happens today. So, you know, while your people and your family and your friends are still around, make sure you take photos of them. Not in case they go missing, but because sometimes they're the only memories we have of people, and you never know what happens in life. And sometimes it's nice to have those reminders of them. So remember that, especially now that we have cameras strapped to our bloody hands 24 hours a day. They're saying here, although detectives said they had no evidence to suggest that Brandy was dead, divers from Carroll and Tippecanoe counties spent 4 hours searching through a water pit outside Colfax on June 14, 2002. Sheriff's Detective Rick Morgan told reporters they didn't have any tips directing them to search that area, but wanted to eliminate it as a possibility. They said, we have come up with absolutely zip so far. On June 15, 2002, detectives asked Kenny to submit to a polygraph examination regarding his wife's disappearance. He agreed and was given the test at the police station, though investigators would not discuss his results. That's very interesting. I don't think in the episode today that they mentioned anything about that polygraph. Um, I would have thought if that was anything interesting, that they would have looked at that throughout the episode. If it was, I didn't see, unless I missed it in the episode, I didn't see anything about a polygraph being done. Interesting. I would have brought that up on the show. Maybe it wasn't brought up because Kelly is a DA, right? She's a prosecutor. And because polygraphs can't be used in a courtroom, she is all about courtroom, trials and charges and prosecution. Maybe she just wasn't interested in something that she couldn't use to back up her case. I don't know. But I don't think we heard anything about a polygraph. Here, investigators received few tips from people who thought they saw Brandy after she was reported missing, but most of them were vague and hard to follow up. According to the ISP detective Blaine Butler told reporters, basically it's people saying, I think I saw her on the back of a motorcycle or something like that. Yeah, that's not a good sighting of people. You can't be like, I was going down I-20 and there was a girl on the back of a motorcycle that looked very similar to this missing woman. That's not a confident, positive sighting of anyone because it happens so quickly. How are you supposed to know any details or yeah, it's not a good you would have to literally, like, speak to someone, have some sort of background on Brandy, and be like, "I met her, I worked with her, and then I thought I saw her in, X, Y, and Z." That would make it a more confident, sighting of her, not some random guy calls in and says, "Hey, I saw her going down I-20 on the back of a motorcycle." That is not helpful. They say Brandy should have been celebrating her 25th birthday on July 12th, 2002, not long after she went missing. And Pam prayed, that's her mother, Pam prayed that she would return home to mark the occasion with her loved ones. She says, I bought her birthday presents just in case she comes back. Sadly, the day came and went without any sign of Brandy. That is very sad. That mum, who I believe has now passed away, she may have kept those presents for 20 years, waiting for maybe the opportunity to give them to Brandy, and never had the chance. So, oh yeah, yeah, how sad. Yeah, let's see what else we got. So, a very discouraging episode. Sometimes on Cold Justice, we get these episodes where it looks really good. It seems like it's going to be a positive ending, and it just doesn't happen. And Kelly was explaining some of these DAs just don't want to go to trial without a body, that they don't want to do a purely circumstantial case. They want the body, they want more evidence, they want a cause of death. Um, yeah, very sad. Danny says in October, spending time with her daughter, granddaughter, and great grandson in Idaho. Can't wait to hug and take pics. Love them. You are. You're going to go in October to Idaho? Okay, I hope you have fun. Yeah, back up your photos. Yeah, that's a good one too. Marlene said most women would leave their pets. Our most women wouldn't leave their pets. Our local women's DV shelter will house pets at the animal shelter until the woman is safe and relocated. That's a good point. That a lot of people, and mostly women too, wouldn't even leave a pet, yet alone their children. So that is a good point. Yeah, let's see. What else do we have? Ah, this is very sad. Investigators admitted that the case had already stalled and that they had no idea what happened to Brandy. Detective Morgan told reporters they were hopeful that the missing woman was still alive and assured them that they didn't have any evidence to suggest otherwise, although he still refused to discuss the results of Kenny's polygraph examination. He stressed that Kenny was not considered a suspect in his wife's disappearance. Well, after Cold Justice had looked at the file, he is very much the person of interest. He is very much a suspect. They say while Kenny had already moved out of the home he shared with his wife, he made sure to give investigators his new contact information before he left. He had moved to Jasper County, Indiana, to be closer to his parents. They say Pam said, that's her mom, Pam said she had only seen her son in law once since her daughter disappeared and wasn't sure how he was handling the situation. He had always been a very low key, laid back person, making it hard to tell if he was upset. While his parents were still taking care of Brandy's two children, Kenny made sure that Pam was able to talk to them on the phone. The week of Brandy's birthday, investigators received a typed letter from someone claiming to have information about Brandy's whereabouts. Detective Morgan said he believed the leads contained in the letter were legitimate, but he needed additional information from the author to pull all the pieces together. He declined to discuss the contents of the letter, but asked that the writer contact the sheriff's office. Unfortunately, they didn't hear from the anonymous tipster again, and the case stalled once again. Jeez. I wonder if that we didn't hear about that either. We didn't hear anything about a note that had been handed in back in 2002. Interesting. So we never heard about the polygraph, never heard about some random tip that came in on a typed letter. Interesting what they leave out of some of the episodes on Cold Justice, isn't it? Hold on, guys. There we go. Tharby said, "My hubby and I are flying to Canada on October 16. Have a good trip. Have a good trip." They're saying here, they say investigators admitted that they hadn't had any new leads in months. They had searched the area surrounding Brandy's home with cadaver dogs several times. Divers combed through nearby ponds. They found no clues about Brandy's fate. Uh, they say Pam was forced to celebrate Christmas almost half a year later without her daughter, then Mother's Day. Before they knew it, it was the first anniversary of Brandy's disappearance, and her loved ones were still without answers. Pam said, "We'd like to know. I would love for her to come home. We'd just like to have some closure." That's very sad. Yeah, even back 20 years ago, listen to the detective. Detective Morgan refrained from calling Kenny a suspect in his wife's disappearance, but admitted, "It concerns me his lack of concern." While he refused to name names, he did say that investigators were narrowing their focus to one person. "The longer it goes on, the less optimistic I am that foul play wasn't involved." So there you go. Even back then, over 20 years ago, Kenny just didn't show any concern about her being missing. So that continued because we saw it in the episode. You're going to go celebrate your brother's 50th. I hope you have a rager for your brother. Hope it's a great time. So this Medium article seems to go through the whole timeline of what happened. Yeah, so Brandy's mother died in 2011 without ever learning what happened to her daughter. But Brandy's friends continue to hold hope that Brandy's body will be found so they can give her a proper burial and provide answers for her children. As of July 2023, Brandy remains listed as a missing person, but detectives believe she was the victim of foul play, which that was true in the episode. They were pretty sure. Brandy Nicole Wilson was just 24 years old when she went missing from Colfax, Indiana. She was a sweet and friendly young woman who was devoted to her two sons. Brandy has brown eyes, brown hair, and at the time of her disappearance, she was 5 feet 3 inches tall and weighed 130 pounds. They say if you have any information about Brandy, please contact the Clinton County Sheriff's Office at that number. I'll put it on the in the chat. I'll put it in the chat for you guys. So that was the episode tonight, and that's about all I've been able to dig up that we didn't get to see. But there is a web sleuth thread for her as well. A Charlie Project, newspapers.com, a few different resources for her. Oh, Clinton County had a 20th anniversary article for her. Let's have a look. Wow, this doesn't this website look like something from the early internet? Look at this. This looks like something from 2002. This was June 4, 2022. So yeah, exactly 20 years later. Where is Brandy Wilson 20 years later? And they go through what had happened to her. Um, is that all they put on the post? Okay, thanks, newspaper. That's what they did. They just did this, but hey, at least they did something for the 20th anniversary. But that's all the information they put really. Yeah, so apparently Brandy's mother, Pam, has passed away in 2011. Her grandmother and grandfather also passed away since she's been missing. Um, so there's quite a few people that are no longer around. So yeah, cold case. There you go. Yeah, I want to see if I can put this up. It's a nice photo of her. There you go. But that's it. No ending for this one, unfortunately. They tried very, very hard, tried to push a case to the prosecutor, to run a circumstantial trial for this. And apparently at the end of the episode, they were describing the conversation they had with the DA. It wasn't a it wasn't even like a no for now or change a couple of things and we'll talk again. It was a flat, hard no. It was just no. If you don't get me a body and a way that she died, it's just we're not doing it. And that was very discouraging. So the prosecutor, the county prosecutor, was just not interested. Not interested unless they had a body. So I don't know if we'll ever see charges um, for Brandy, unfortunately. And that was sort of the message that Kelly was talking about during the show, that this was sort of a last ditch effort to try and get some sort of justice for Brandy, something, anything to try and piece it together and at least give people in her life some answers, even if they couldn't find a body. But they just weren't willing to do it. Just not, they weren't even willing to, work on it. They were just like hard, flat, no, just not going to happen. Um, and Kelly was explaining that this is quite a common occurrence, that some counties just won't do it. They won't run a circumstantial case without a body. They might run a circumstantial case with a body, but they won't run one without the body being found. And the fact that it's been 20 years, uh, no one's come across her. No one has sort of given anyone a direction they could go to. So very sad. All right, hold on. Let's move on. So that's your recap from tonight. If you want to watch it, you can watch it on Oxygen. If you want to watch the replay, I think it's on NBC. Hold on, what is it? NBC. We don't have this service in Australia, I don't think. So I got to look up what one it is. I don't know, but you can find it on oxygen.com and they will have it. You can also find it on nbc.com/cold justice. They have episodes on there too. So it's probably on Peacock. So if you want to watch it, you may have to get Peacock. Yeah, I'll show you here's the provider. There you go, NBC Cold Justice, season 8, episode 4. Already up to the fourth episode in this new season. I can't believe it. I really can't. By the way, there's the wedding rings. I didn't get to take a photo of it, unfortunately. There we go. Is that yeah. There's the wedding rings in the box that apparently she left behind. I didn't get a screenshot, unfortunately, but you can see it right there. It is a long time. It is a long time. By the way, a lot of people have been reaching out asking about Gus, the 4-year-old missing child. I wish I had better information for you or news. There is really nothing. Still nothing. What? Oh, that's really sad. Apparently, In Victoria, police have identified two hikers found frozen to death near Victoria's highest peak as travelers from overseas, with speculation swirling they may have met their end after taking a wrong turn. The women, who were aged in their 20s and 30s, were discovered by two hiking doctors around 1 p.m. on Friday near Cleve Cole Hut, a remote shelter popular with adventurers heading to Mount Bogong. They're saying despite being close to the hut, the pair were found huddled together and exposed on an open plain at Lenderfeld Point with no protection from the severe weather. Police are now working with the Department of Foreign Affairs and Trade to contact their families overseas. So they're saying that these two women froze to death on the mountain. Wow, I don't think I've heard very many cases of, unfortunately, hikers freezing to death in Victoria. I mean, it probably happens every year, but two women freezing to death so close to a shelter really doesn't make a lot of sense. So apparently there was like a little hut up there that they could have got into. Here's the little hut. So there was some shelter that they could have got out of the elements up on the mountain, but they were found not too far from here, and they were frozen to death. Pretty brutal. That's the breaking news out of Victoria right now. Wow, that's horrible. And now their families overseas are going to get a phone call basically telling them that their loved ones have died in Victoria on holiday. That's really awful. I wanted to see if there was any update about Gus for you, but I don't believe there is. Missing. I don't believe so. Yeah, no, there's no update, unfortunately, guys. Yeah, there's no updates. Basically, friends of the missing 4-year-old Gus's family shut down foul play theories in the 4-year-old's disappearance. They say a hey, Josh. They say a friend of Gus Lamont's family has pleaded for cruel online theories to stop as police scale back their search for the missing 4-year-old. Yeah, please, guys, until there's something very solid to point in that direction, you are adding to the family's pain and suffering. If you guys are all wrong, if you're wrong about what happened to the little boy, and you were part of the people pointing fingers at people who were not involved, you were adding to the misery of that family. And I don't know if I ever want to be, doing that. So wait until you get like some sort of positive sign from the investigators. If it does go down that route, you'll find out very quickly because they'll start pulling people in for interviews, and it'll leak to the media. They'll be like they're interviewing the dad, the mom, the grandparents, these people. It'll leak very quickly. And then you'll have a leg to stand on. But right now it's not at that point. So they're saying here cruel online theories that foul play was involved in the disappearance of Gus Lamont need to stop, a family friend has pleaded, as police scale back the search for the missing 4-year-old. And they say he was last seen playing in sand at the family sheep station about 40 kilometers south of Yunta, about 320 kilometers north of Adelaide in South Australia, 5 p.m. last weekend on Saturday, August the 27th. In the over a week since he went missing, conspiracy theories have emerged online accusing the Lamont family of foul play in the young boy's tragic disappearance. Addressing the heartbreaking speculation, longtime family friend Fleur Tiva from Yunta said there is no way they've harmed this child. The family would not have harmed this child even if the world was about to come to the end, which is really what is happening for them now, having a missing child. They say, I think it's unfortunate people are speculating because things like this pain the family. But I do understand that when there are so many unanswered questions, people will naturally try to fill in the gaps, even if their theories are implausible or impractical. Miss Tiva or Tiva said her family had been close to the Lamonts for 130 years after settling on neighboring stations, describing Gus's family as kind, gentle, and trustworthy. They embody everything about humans that can be good. Miss Tiva said she hasn't given up hope on finding Gus and believes the 4-year-old could still be somewhere on his family's 60,000 hectare outback property. 60,000 hectare. Crazy. They say if he got into a little creek down under a bush and has just hidden there and isn't running around and getting dehydrated, he could still be hiding somewhere. I mean, maybe. Yeah, so that is the only update that a family friend has called for people to stop running conspiracy theories about what happened to the little boy. Yeah, that would be good. That would be good. Yeah, but any news about Gus? None really, because they've basically turned off the search now. The search has been scaled back dramatically, and there's not that many people out there anymore. What is a hectare? Isn't a hectare a square kilometer? Or am I wrong? No, Ping's wrong. That's all right. I'm always wrong. A hectare is a non-SI metric unit of area equal to a square with 100-meter sides. That is 10,000 square meters. There you go. 10,000 square meters, and is primarily used in the measurement of land. There are 100 hectares in 1 square kilometer. An acre is is about 0.405 hectares, and 1 hectare contains about 2.47 acres. Oh man, I hate maths and weird names for things. Here, I'll show you a demonstration of what it is. There you go. 1 hectare, and there's 1 acre. So that's the difference between a hectare and an acre. So there you go. So their property is pretty damn big. It's 60,000. I don't even know what that looks like in real life. Oh, let's have a look. How big is that, like, of a property? Yeah, 60,000 hectares. So you can imagine, based on the thing that's in front of you now, that hectare, there's 60,000 of those to search of looking for Gus. 60,000 of those. That's how big the area is to look for Gus. He could be anywhere on all of those. Well, an acre is smaller, as you can see in the photo, Mr. Joe. How are you, Joe? Well, if it isn't Joe Smarty Pants, there you go. Are you back in Oklahoma this weekend, buddy? Is that where you are? Marlene said an acre is over 43,000 square feet. There you go. There you go, mass. There you go, mass for you. Property area mass. There you go. You guys can figure it out. Um, there you go. So 60,000 of those. That's the area that they have to search for Gus. I mean, it's possible he's still out there somewhere. I mean, that's a huge area to look for someone. A adult human, let alone a child who's not very big. You know, you could easily miss them out there easily. Um, yeah, he's only very little. So even if you had people searching in like a line, if they're spread out, you may miss him because you're so far apart. You could still miss them even in a search like that. Yeah, really sad. I don't know if we're going to find out any answers anytime soon. There's just no updates. now that they've scaled down the search, there's just nothing. Hold on. Let me see if I can find anything else for you. I think this was the very last update for it. This one. I think this was the last one I know of. Yeah, it was this update from SA Police, but it was a couple of days ago. This was the last one I know of.
Good afternoon, everybody. This afternoon, I'd just like to talk to you about two significant missing person searches that have been occurring this week. We all know about little Gus, and I'll come to him in just a minute. We have also been searching for another person, a male by the name of Benjamin. Benjamin was last seen on Friday, the 26th of September in the far north of the state on the Stewart Highway. We were alerted to a vehicle that was driving erratically. Police located the vehicle, and due to the nature of the driving, we positioned police resources further down the road at Towns and waited for the vehicle to approach. That vehicle didn't arrive at Glendambo in the state's far north there. We then commenced a search along the highway and couldn't locate the vehicle. And on Saturday, we launched a further search using Polair resources. And at about 3 p.m. on Saturday, located the vehicle in some scrub, approximately 10 kilometres from the Stewart Highway on scrubland in Ruramina Station. When police got to the vehicle, the driver, who we believe to be Benjamin, was not present within it. When we actually believe, as part of our investigations, speaking with family, that he would have actively been trying to evade police, which is consistent with his manner of driving at the time as well. We've dedicated consistent resources to trying to locate Benjamin around the vehicle. This has included Polair foot searches. There was also some First Nations trackers that we used. We did actually find some footprints and some tracks that were able to be followed, but they did not result in us being able to identify or find Benjamin at this location. It's been an intensive search, which has also included SES volunteers, local police, community constables, as I've said, Star Group operations and Polair. Despite these intensive searches, and it is very tough terrain out there, a very strong canopy cover, so it is very difficult to locate someone in that region. We have now scaled down this search. We talk about searches involving a timeframe for survival when someone is likely to survive. We've taken advice from experts, as we always do in relation to that. We've reviewed the search that's been undertaken and satisfied we've done everything possible to try and locate Benjamin, but we have been unable to locate him within the search area. As it is only, I'd say only, but the terrain would make it much more difficult, 10 kilometres from the Stewart Highway. We are still seeking information from members of the public who may have seen Benjamin. His picture is on the Safe Hole Facebook page, and we'll certainly speak to our media section about making that more broadly available, just in case someone may have picked him up on the highway. We don't have anything that indicates that at this point in time, but we're leaving every option open. We're continuing to investigate these circumstances as we do, and in due course, it will be handled by the Missing Persons Investigation section. If I now move on to the search for Gus. So as we well know, Gus is a little 4-year-old, blonde, curly hair, smiling face, young fellow who has been missing from a farm property about 43 kilometres south of the township of Yunta since last Saturday, the 27th of September. The last time Gus was seen by family was approximately 5 p.m. That night, and when a family member came out later in the evening, about half an hour later, to call him back inside, they couldn't find him. He's been described as an adventurous child, shy, but he is also a pretty good walker, but he's never left the family property with any distance previously that we're aware of. As everyone would know, considerable police resources and searches have been undertaken for the last 7 days. throwing absolutely everything we can in an effort to try and locate Gus safely and safe and well and alive. From early Sunday morning, all the resources that were involved in the search to that time were rapidly increased. Clearly, everyone understands the urgency of a situation with a missing person, but particularly a 4-year-old child. This commitment has been ongoing and unwavering since that time. And the search for Gus has probably been one of the largest, most intensive searches for a missing person conducted in South Australia in recent times. Like every member of the community who's following this very, very sad event, our people who've been on the ground, our volunteers, our police officers, Defence Force personnel and others, equally have been affected in some way or another by the fact that there's a missing 4-year-old child. You have to remember that people involved in this search are parents, family members, often with young siblings or young ones around, and so we all feel the pain and the heartache that's associated with a young child going missing.
I guess they have to ask, at what point do you continue funding the search if you don't find some sort of lead to keep you going in a direction to justify the costs or whatever? It's a very cold way of dealing with humans to say that it has to come down to some sort of metric for us to keep going, some sort of breadcrumb to be like, okay, well, we can go in this direction. And I think originally that footprint they found, that a searcher found, that gave them hope, is why that search really continued. But if you can't find anything and there's no positive lead, what are you supposed to do? Hey Joe, I arrived in Liberal, Kansas at the Oklahoma state line at 11 p.m. tonight after 15 hours on the road. You have another crazy motel? I bet you the motels are pretty crazy. I mean, I have stayed in some pretty crazy motels in the plains, and I believe you about crazy stories. I believe you. I have many myself about staying in the plains in America. Chipmunk said, it's scary what can be hacked, even vacuum cleaners. Okay. Sure. Hacked vacuum cleaners. They're going to vacuum your house for you even when you don't ask for it. Betsy said that little guy must be a little mover. I mean, we looked it up and a child can move around around 2 miles a day. But it depends on the conditions. It depends how hot it is. Do they have access to water? Can be less depending on the surroundings and what health they're in. So, Marlene said the poor children in missing children in Nova Scotia. Yeah, that one's pretty bad too. So that was pretty much the last update from police. There has been no more really. Other than that update from the family friend who's saying don't be, stop it with the conspiracy theories. But other than that, there's been really nothing. And here's that other article. Yeah, search scaled back for 4-year-old missing in Australian outback. Police say boy is unlikely to be alive due to passage of time, his age, and nature of the terrain. So they just don't believe he's alive. We maintain. Yeah, police are saying that they believe that they've done absolutely everything we can to locate Gus within the search area, but despite our best efforts, we have not been able to locate him, and unfortunately, we are now having to scale back the search for Gus. Very sad, very sad. Yeah, so other than that, being that it is now the weekend and yesterday the 1 week mark passed. So he went missing on Saturday around 5 o'clock in the evening or the afternoon. And that was yesterday, about 24 hours ago. just about 24 hours ago now. It's 4:55 p.m. in Melbourne. So Joe said, that's pretty funny. All right. All right, my friends. I think it's going to be a short one tonight, but I will be back tomorrow. I will be back tomorrow at a better time. We've got to get these time changes sorted out so we can all be on the same page. Actually, what time is it for you guys? Let's see. USA. What time is it? So it's 1:56 a.m. So what's 2 hours ago? 1 hour ago would have been 1 a.m. So 4 p.m. 2 hours ago, 2 p.m. would have been midnight. Okay. I got it. I know the times now. So Trish would go on at 10:30. So if she goes on at 10:30, that's like 4 hours ago. Wait, no. Yeah. Almost 4, 3.5 hours ago. So 1:30. And then she would go to midnight. Okay. Got it. Yeah, it happens every time we change time frame. I get confused for like 3 days and then I figure it out. Joe said it. Yes, that's right. That's what all the ladies say, Joe. That's what all the ladies say. Chimunk says, yeah, I could imagine Joe doing that too. Rachel said 10:57 p.m. here. That's the West Coast, right? West Coast. Hey, Jackie. 1 a.m. 1 a.m. Central. So if you're in the Central time, it's 1 a.m. By the way, I want to thank my friend JDR. JDR, thank you for the donation yesterday after we got off the air. I appreciate it. It's very, very kind. Very kind. Very nice of you, my friend. Miss Woozy, by the way, we did my new phone came. So I have my new phone. It is like a brick compared to my Note 10 that I had for like 7 years. This 23 Ultra is literally half a kilo in weight. It is like a brick. It is very heavy. You could kill a person with it. But it is a good phone. It seems to be pretty good. But just weighty, very weighty. Gail said, I use my phone to turn my parents' TV down as they have it so loud. You're connected via the Virgin TV box. Interesting. I didn't know you guys could do that. Miss Woozy said almost 11 p.m. here in Wagon. I don't know where Wagon is. I'm just going to call it that for a bit. I might have to brave my worn-torn streets for brunch tomorrow before hitting up the farmers market. All right. You can't say that in True Crime Ping. Okay. Gayla said, I've had that now with the Ultra 24. They're crazy how much they weigh now. I mean, I haven't upgraded my phone in like half a decade or more, and I couldn't believe when I got it in the mail and I put it in the case, just how stupidly heavy it is. If you are not a large male like I am, and you were a smaller female maybe, this phone would almost be unwieldy. Like it would be almost you'd have to use two hands constantly to operate it. It's crazy how just monstrous these phones are getting. I think it's probably that thick is because of the battery, because they put a bigger battery in it. Like when you compare it to the Note 10 Plus, which that's the phone I had, and then this one, it's supposed to be the same dimensions or whatever, but weighs an absolute ton. You stole the joke from Jimmy Kimmel? Okay. Don't be doing that. People will come after you. Thavi said, I have an S22 Ultra. Pretty good phone. It is basically the new version of the Note. So if you like the Note phones that they used to have, that's what this is. And it has like, the S Pen, like the little stylus, which I find myself using all the time, which is part of the reason I never upgraded my phone earlier is because they took that away for a period of time. So I stopped. I didn't want to upgrade. Kelly J says 11 p.m. here in Arizona. Popcorn. I heard from Popcorn the other day. Burnt Popcorn. They left a message under the video, and it was nice to hear from them. So Burnt Popcorn, it was good to hear from you. Miss Woozy said, "My dad kills me with his phone every time he blasts some random video while simultaneously blasting the TV." Thavi said, "I had a Note 10 before this." Yeah, that's what I had. But I was forced into upgrading because the Note 10 hasn't had a security update in 2 years. So it's no longer secure and you can't get into a lot of banking and services. And so I was forced into upgrading. No joking about it when you do true crime. All right. Don't be killing no one with no phones. Kelly J says Popcorn was in Web Sleuth's chat the other night too. Yeah, I hope they're doing well. Gayla says, I still wonder where Alaska is. I have no idea. I don't know. I haven't seen or heard from them in 9 months. About 9 months. Not since the Australian summer last year. I haven't heard from them. I sent them an email. I didn't hear back. I did a couple of stories from Alaska that I thought they would be interested in. Never heard back. We also haven't seen our friend from New York recently either. We had a lady that would drop in from New York, and we haven't seen her for a while either, which is concerning. So I don't know. Rachel said, "I haven't seen Alaska in a chat for months. Me either. I haven't seen her in 9 months, maybe longer." Uh, Miss Gambler, it's Mr. Gambler. It's a guy. Gambler is okay. I heard from him during the trial, and he's got some personal stuff going on. That's all I'll say. He's got some personal stuff going on, but that he is watching, and he just can't comment at the moment, which is sad. I miss him a lot. He's a great guy. He's having a break. Yeah, he may come back at some point. I hope he does, because he does all our Canadian true crime for us. He's the one who gives us all the stories from Canada. So I hope he comes back. I do. Hopefully, eventually he will. But I did get to speak to him when I was at the trial. He contacted me saying that he's watching the coverage and stuff like that. So it was good to hear from him. What? Yeah, I will. All right. You sound drunk with drivers. You sound like you've been driving so long that you're now like sleep drunk, like sleep deprived. Joe's going to crash out and then not remember any of this tomorrow. He's going to crash out. How much driving do you have to do if you're going from, where are you on the border? Kansas. Are you heading to South Oklahoma? I think it is, right? It's South Oklahoma. Let me have a look. So if you're on the Kansas-Oklahoma border, and you're probably going to head south of Norman, right? You're heading down south of Norman. Probably got like another 5 hours of driving, something like that. Oh, you're going to the Panhandle. Yeah, you got like another, let me see. Depends what part of the Panhandle. If you're going north of Amarillo, you got like what, another 4 hours, something like that. 5 hours. If you're going north of Amarillo, it's something like that. If you're heading further south, like West Oklahoma, probably another 6-7 hours, something like that. So you got another day of driving. Chimong said, do you collect anything? He might. He collects true crime cases. That's what he does. Miss Woozy said, then shouting. All right, I'm not repeating that. Okay. You collect keychains and magnets when you travel to different states. Brutal. I don't know if I want to collect. I don't know if I want to collect magnets and keychains after I've been driving for a million hours. All right, I think that's it. I don't have any more updates. I don't think I have any more. Let me just double check. Actually, this one's pretty interesting. There is a woman. This, I don't know if we've covered very many of these, but this is an interesting update because we've done a few of these. There was a woman called Krista Gale Pike. She is set to receive her date for DP. So she is now set to be DP shortly. So let me bring you the update for that because I don't think we've done a lot of male ones, but not a lot of female ones. So I want to bring that to you if I can. Yeah, that's not it. Yeah, let me take you to WBIR.
Convicted killers on death row in Tennessee. State leaders paused executions for months. That move was tied to problems with the method of using 3 drugs for the process. Now, next year, the state is set to take the lives of the people on your screen. Gary Sutton, Tony Carruthers, Anthony Hines, and Krista Gale Pike. Pike is the only woman on death row in Tennessee, behind bars now for almost 3 decades.
10 News anchor Shay Smith joining us now. And Shay, her execution would mark the first time Tennessee has put a woman to death in more than 200 years.
That's right, John and Robin. Krista Pike is scheduled to be put to death by the state next September. Pike was sentenced to death in 1996 for the 1995 killing of Colleen Slemmer Pike. Pike and her boyfriend, Tadaryl Shipp, were both convicted of Slemmer's murder after Slemmer was tortured, mutilated, and killed. But it has taken almost 30 years for a death date to be set for Pike. I spoke to Slemmer's mother, who says she is patiently waiting for September 30th, 2026.
I would like Tennessee to hear my plea and finally end this after 30 years. I really would.
It's been 3 decades, but a painful chapter for Colleen Slemmer's family is on the verge of coming to an end.
Once it's completely done and everything is over with, it will be a close.
In 1995, 19-year-old Colleen Slemmer was brutally tortured, mutilated, and killed by Krista Gale Pike. A year after the killing, Pike was convicted of murdering Slemmer and was sentenced to death. Slemmer and Pike were taking part in a job training program here in Knoxville. Investigators say Pike, her boyfriend, Tadaryl Shipp, and friend, Shadala Peterson, lured Slemmer into Tyson Park on the night of January 12th. Once there, the couple then taunted and attacked Slemmer with a box cutter and small cleaver. Pike and Shipp carved pentagrams into Slemmer's chest and on her forehead. Pike then repeatedly hit Slemmer in the head with a chunk of asphalt until she was dead. She then
What a absolutely brutal, heinous crime, and it's taken 30 years for them to finalize her DP date. Even still, it's a year away. Like, I'm pretty sure some of the males that they've done, not in Tennessee, but like in Texas and things like that, they get their court date and they go in, they get assigned their DP date, and it's like 2 months away, sometimes a month away. This one, they've given her over a year, or a little under a year actually. but a year away. So September next year. So she's got a year. So I don't know if she's got any final court appeals that have to go through before they can actually carry it out. But she definitely has her date now. But you can understand where the mum is coming from, right? 30 years that mum has been waiting to sort of be done with the justice portion or the court and legal portion of all this. And until that sentence is carried out, they sort of live in limbo. Crazy, crazy.
Took a piece of Slemmer's skull with her when they left the scene. Later, investigators say Pike bragged about the killing and celebrated it. She even showed another classmate the piece of Slemmer's bone. Very soon after, though, the three of them were arrested for her murder. In 1996, a jury quickly found Pike guilty and sentenced her to death. Shipp was convicted the following year of murder and was sentenced to life in prison. Peterson denied any involvement in the murder, but made a plea deal and admitted to being an accessory after the murder. But it has taken 30 years for an execution date to be set for Pike, something Slemmer's mother says has taken far too long.
For Krista to keep on having appeals and keep going back and forth to court and everything, it's hard. It really is.
While in jail, Pike was also convicted of attempted murder for trying to kill another inmate. She was also investigated for trying to convince a man to help her escape prison. Slemmer's mother says if the execution goes through next year, this painful chapter will finally end. She can move forward, and Colleen will finally rest in peace.
Yeah, you can definitely see where that family is coming from. And you heard it in her voice when she was saying, we have to keep schlepping to court every time they have a friggin' court day or an appeal or this or that. And it's dragged on 30 years. It's either you do it or you don't. And that would give the family some closure. It looks like they finally have given that date. And yeah, you either commute the sentence to life and let them rot in jail, or you actually carry out the sentence as as given to you by the state. There's no two ways around it. You can't just let them sit there. That's somewhat cruel to the inmate too, because they always have to worry whether they're going to be dragged up to death row. Miss Woozy said it's fun to hear about them, about DPs. I don't know. I don't know if that's a fun thing. Marlene said after she gets the news, she just doesn't belong in society. Yeah. Hey Nick, how are you? Hey, thanks for your donation the other day. I appreciate it, my friend. It's good to see you. Yeah. Yeah, that poor lady. I don't know what her age would have been back in the 90s, but you can see she's an older woman now. And she's doing this for her daughter. Here, let me take you to this next bit.
Now I am joined now by 10 News executive investigative producer John North. And John, you first worked this case back in the mid-90s, and it's been 30 years since this killing. What has taken so long for this execution date to be set?
Well, if you are facing death in the United States, you get lots of chances to test your case, to appeal, and that's what's been going on for many, many years.
And the execution is set for almost exactly 1 year. But that's a lot of time between now and then. Is there anything that could happen that could potentially impact that date?
Honestly, Shay, there's no telling what could happen. There could be some kind of a decision. There could be some kind of interference. There could be some problem that evolves. You just never know. So it's a date that's been set. That's our guidance at this point, really.
And John, she is the only woman on death row, but there's no execution chambers in the jail that she is being held at, the prison, excuse me. Where will her execution take place?
She will be executed at Riverbend. That's where all the male inmates are held, but because that's where the state's death chamber is, she will be taken there, and that's where she will be executed.
That's very interesting that it seems to happen so infrequently to female inmates that they don't even have one at the female jail. That she has to go to the male one because that's where it is. I find that interesting, and being that she's the only female one on death row, yeah, they just must do it 30 years, that they must just not think it's worth making one over on that side. So interesting. She'll be carted over to the male one and have the sentence carried out. Sure, sure. Put a shower curtain over the bed, protect you from vampires. That's what you do. Vampire protection. Or Joe, I don't mean to scare you, but it's almost like you're doing half the work for Dexter. You're already putting the plastic on things. You're helping out Dexter. It's almost like you're doing half the job. Chipmunk says he thinks the shower curtain is clean. I don't know if the shower curtain is cleaner than the bed. Gail said I would be sleeping in my car. Yeah. Nick says I will never agree with DP. I'd be out of the jury selection post haste. The only thing I ever think about it is that if you live in a state that has it as a penalty, then you must think about the crimes that you do, because it is always a possibility for a sentence, right? So, I mean, that's the part of the world you live. You can talk about removing it, you can talk about advocating for it to be abolished. That's fine. But for the people who are convicted of committing these crimes in a place where that is a possibility, it's sort of FAFO, isn't it? You can't avoid that anyway. Miss Woozy said, Ping makes an excellent point. Seedy motels, ceiling mirrors, does the bed vibrate too? Do they charge by the hour? That's the next question. Lindy says, is she wearing her bedroom slippers? I don't know. Gail says, I can't say if I do or don't. Yeah, there's some crimes out there that are that heinous that deserve it. Marlene says, Pike killed in prison too. They said that she was attempted murder for someone else. Oh yeah, I agree. Chipmunk says autocorrect. It is autocorrecting. I don't know what's going to happen. Like that guy said, there's several things that could happen between now and September next year that could delay. It could avoid it altogether. I'm just trying to find if there's what else we can learn about Krista Gale Pike. Yeah, let's have a look. So it says here she became jealous of her Job Corps classmate, 19-year-old Colleen Slemmer, whom she believed was trying to steal her boyfriend to Daryl Shipp. They're saying friends of Slemmer denied the accusations along with friend Shadola Peterson. Pike planned to lure Slemmer to an isolated abandoned steam plant near the University of Tennessee campus. And they're saying here, on January 12th, 1995, Pike, Shipp, Peterson, and Slemmer signed out of the dormitory and proceeded to the woods, where Slemmer was told they wanted to make peace by offering her some marijuana. Upon arrival at the secluded location, Slemmer was attacked by Pike and Shipp, while Peterson acted as a lookout. According to the later court testimony, for the next 30 minutes, Slemmer was taunted, beaten, and slashed, and a pentagram was carved into her chest. Finally, Pike smashed Slemmer's skull with a large chunk of asphalt, killing her, and they said that Pike kept a piece of her skull. Pike began to show off the piece of skull around the school, and the three were arrested within 36 hours. The logbook showed that Pike, Shipp, Peterson, and Slemmer left together, and only three returned. Detectives found the piece of skull in Pike's jacket pocket. Soon after her arrest, Pike confessed to police of the torture and killing of Slemmer, but insisted they were merely trying to scare her and it got out of control. Really? So you were trying to scare her by picking up a giant piece of asphalt and smashing her head with it. I don't think you can claim you were trying to just scare her when you caved in her head with a large piece of asphalt. And then you took a piece of her skull and showed it to people like it was a friggin' trophy or souvenir. I don't think you can claim that. And I don't think anyone buys it that you were just trying to scare her. That is brutal. So it sounds like she was originally going to be DP in 2002, August 19, 2002. But apparently soon thereafter, she changed her mind. And on July 8th, just shy of a month before that date, defense lawyers filed a motion to allow the appeal process to continue. That motion was denied. However, on August 2nd, 2002, a three-judge state appeals court panel ruled that the proceedings should be continued and the execution was not carried out. In December 2008, Pike's latest request for a new trial was turned down and she was returned to death row. With this denial, Pike's allowed appeals under the rules and procedures of the state of Tennessee were exhausted. So it took from 2008 to 2025 to even get an answer about, like, with her appeals extinguished. It took 15 years, another 15, what is it, 15, 18, like almost 20 years, another 20 years. He sort of. So she even tried to appeal in the federal court, and they sought a commutation of sentence from death to prison on the following grounds: ineffective assistance of counsel. Pike suffered from mental illness, and capital punishment as administered in Tennessee is unconstitutional. In a 61-page ruling by the U.S. District Judge issued March 11, 2016, all grounds were rejected, and the requested commutation was denied. On August 22nd, 2019, having heard the same appeal by Pike's lawyers on October 1st, 2018, the three-judge panel on the United States Court of Appeals for the Sixth Circuit panel unanimously upheld the lower court's ruling and denied relief. So she tried a bunch of different times to get out of it and try to get it commuted to life in prison, but it didn't work. Let's see. I want to see about this other crime that she was alleged to have done. Here. In August of 2001, Pike, with the assistance from an inmate, Natasha Cornett, attacked and attempted to strangle a fellow inmate called Patricia Jones with a shoestring and nearly succeeded in choking her to death. Jones had been serving a life sentence for the 1994 murder of 84-year-old Alberta Coker in Knoxville at the time of her attack. Pike was convicted of first-degree murder, attempted murder, on August 12, 2004. So she was only in there for a few years and she already tried to kill someone else. Crazy. This woman. Hey Taz, how are you? Ugh. Emily Pike, yeah. There's no update in that, I don't think. Emily Pike. Don't think there's an update. No. It is still considered unsolved. No update for Emily Pike. It's horrible. No update for Emily Pike. Emily Pike family reflects on unsolved murder at site where teen was found dismembered. Yeah, I hope they figure it out.
14-year-old Emily Pike was brutally murdered
Hey, it's Justin Lum.
earlier this year, but long before that, she was allegedly sexually assaulted. The Bureau of Indian Affairs conducted an investigation but closed the case due to insufficient evidence. Family members believe Emily would still be alive if that case was prosecuted.
Did you guys know that Emily was in the group home?
Emily was in custody of her tribe and ultimately placed in a Mesa group home licensed by the Department of Child Safety. She reported being sexually assaulted on the San Carlos Apache Reservation. In May 2025, the tribe's chief, Elliot Sneezy, answered to Arizona lawmakers about the strain his officers face covering 1.8 million acres of land where 17,000 tribal members live. Emily's 911 call was transferred to the Game and Fish Department.
To the best of my knowledge, part of the reason why that call was given to the Game and Fish Department to locate her, because it was in a rural area, a very desolate area, and Game and Fish is the experts on locating people in those type of areas. Now, do we respond to some of those areas? Yes. However, looking at calls, we were also busy. As I mentioned, we cover a lot of area, and I think at the time we only had about 22 police officers.
No one has been charged in Emily's assault.
Ultimately, the path to her leading to a group home almost seemed like she was punished for being victimized. And I find that absolutely abhorrent.
Even after Emily ran away from Sacred Journey multiple times, DCS indicated the agency had no record of her. Here's Catherine Patak, 2 weeks after being confirmed director of DCS.
When a child is living on tribal land and either eligible for enrollment or enrolled in a tribe, the tribe has exclusive jurisdiction. The state can't come in and tell them what to do with their children.
Yeah, I can't play it because of the music, but if you want to watch that entire special report from Justin Lum and Phoenix 10, you can find it in the chat. I'll put it here. You should support Justin Lum and his reporting. A great reporter, a great journalist, does really good work. I know you all know him too, and has worked so many cases over the years. So give that a watch and learn more about Emily. Emily, and find out what led her to being there. I think that, in that committee hearing, what we heard was a lot of excuses, a lot of like, oh, it wasn't our fault. We transferred it to the game and park department, and like, oh, we took it to some other place. Like, just it seems like everyone doesn't want to be tied down over that girl's treatment and how she was failed by several departments. It was multiple departments that, led to her being in the situation she was. Not that they had her killed, but just that she was put into a pretty crap situation. Kelly J said the reservations have a lot of issues here. Unfortunately, I know a few people who lived on it once. Gail said basically just pass the buck. Yeah. You could see them all like trying to have some answer for why it happened. I don't know if we're ever going to find out who hurt Emily. I think it's going to take someone coming forward to have to say she was with X person on that day when she went missing from the group home. And unless they find that, I think it's going to be very difficult. But if you don't know what this is, so on February 14th, 2025, a hiker found remains in bags near Highway 60. Those remains were identified as Emily Pike, a 14-year-old who had gone missing the month before in January. The discovery was made northeast of Globe, Arizona, near milepost 277. Police believe Pike was murdered elsewhere and then placed near Highway 60. So they believe that her sort of where she had been murdered was in a completely different location.
Tracking the disappearance and murder of Emily Pike. It's been more than 6 months since the body of the San Carlos Apache teenager was found in Gila County. Still no arrests, and this case has raised a lot of questions about tribal children and their placement in group homes.
It's not just for her, it's for everybody else.
Emily Pike's name started a movement about missing and murdered Indigenous people.
I know the case hurt a lot of people. You know, it touched a lot of people throughout the country.
Allred Pike's niece was murdered while living in a group home licensed by the state. Her body found off the 60 near Globe.
Closure only happens when we find whoever did this.
Emily's killing is still unsolved while authorities investigate her murder. There's also an investigation into what some describe as failures that led up to her disappearance and death.
We all failed her. Everybody, social services, tribal courts, police department, DCS, the group home, family.
Tribal Social Services had removed Emily from her home after she reported she was sexually assaulted. She was placed in a group home in Mesa off her tribal land.
Hey, it's okay. You're not in trouble, okay?
Police body camera video shows how she desperately wanted to go home.
I just want to see my mom.
Emily was taken back to the group home. She had run away a total of 4 times. The ABC 15 investigators visited San Carlos Apache tribal land where she was from earlier this year. The chairman of the tribe speaking to us then, calling for state leaders to look into how and why Emily and others are able to run away from their group homes.
We want the group homes to be investigated, their licensure, their operating standards, what standards they're following, safety guidelines.
It's a complicated problem. Tribal children being sent off tribal land and placed in homes off the reservation. Emily's tribe has their own group home, but can only serve around a dozen kids.
That one's very limited. And so, but because of that limitation and because there's nowhere for them to go, a lot of them get sent off reservation to group homes.
The chairman said they need to find ways to keep tribal children on the reservations, and for Emily, her case leading to calls for better communication.
I think they're also missing the point is that how come there's no investigation into the sex crimes against young children on the reservation? Because if you can sort out that problem, you will have more children staying on reservation because they don't have to be taken away due to crimes committed against them. So we talk about all this investigating the state homes, but the children should never make it to those homes in the first place unless, you know, it's coming from a family member. So there has to be early intervention here. Why is there no early intervention? Why is it only after a child is essayed that anything is done? And what are those risks after you do remove those children? They can't stay on the reservation in a group home because of capacity issues. What happens then? And then they leave. So you've got to look at those early steps of what happened to Emily, not just what happened after she left. And those answers seem to be hard to come by. I've not seen anyone try and justify, answer anything about why that child was abused on reservation. So, we'll see. We'll see. Very sad case, and I just don't know if we're ever going to get any kind of answer for it. I feel like if the cops had any clue, the investigation would be going in a different direction. And so far, since February, there's really been no movement in it at all. There's been no updates. There's been no persons of interest. There's been no help in identifying who she was with. Nothing really. It's at a bit of a standstill. Yeah, I don't know. I'm glad to see the community coming out in support of her, though, even though it feels like it was a little bit too late, that we seem to support people when they're gone and instead of doing it while they're here. So we'll see what happens, but Ping is not hopeful. Ping is not hopeful of having a resolution in this one, but I hope I'm wrong. I hope I'm wrong. All right. Let's get out of here. Let's get out of here. It's like 5:30 down here. So let's get out of here. I'll be back tomorrow, hopefully at an earlier time. Hopefully we'll get a better time frame with the time changes. Who is messaging me? All right. Hey, love you all. Have a great Sunday out there. I will see you tomorrow for Sunday night. That's a good point, Joe. I'll see you tomorrow. Have a good night out there. Get a good sleep. I'll see you for Sunday night. Niners are not playing tomorrow, so I can be on at a decent time to hang out with you all. So Niners won their game on Thursday night. No game tomorrow for the 49ers, so I'll be on earlier. Thank you to the moderators. I appreciate it. Good night, everyone. Bye.